Thank you for your interest in the Retained Recruiter show powered by iIntro. Before the show starts, I have a small favour to ask of you. Our goal is to provide you with the most insightful, helpful and practical recruitment knowledge and know-how from the best in the recruitment industry. If you like this channel and enjoy watching our content, hit the subscribe button to get notified as soon as we upload a new episode. Thank you again, and as ever, we're rooting for your success. Now, time for the show. Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter show. My name is James.
And my name is Joe. And James is joining us from the Recruitment Expo today. So he's off traveling. So that's why you can see that glamorous ceiling that he's got going on. And we aren't alone. We are joined by the wonderful, the effervescent Rebecca Shannon. Hi, Rebecca. Nice to have you on.
Oh, what a great intro. Yeah, lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, James is going to give you a real big up now. He's got the best bio for you.
Oh, I just wish I was going to use the word effervescent. That was a cracking word.
I know.
But,
you are
there you go. Anyway.
Well, that's what I think of when I look at you.
Excellent. Well, yeah, listen, I'm talking to you today from the Recruitment Agency Expo in Birmingham in the UK, but we're delighted to be joined by Rebecca, who's acknowledged to be the standout coach working with senior people in the UK and European recruitment sector, and maybe the US as well, because we'll have some US listeners listening to as well. But the good news is Rebecca is a recruiter by training, so she gets it, yeah, which is really important. And she likes to call people out on their bullshit, holds them up to the flat mirror, that we all need, and cuts through the noise and stories that we all tell ourselves every day. She draws upon over 20 years of experience. I know, hard to believe, but over 20 years of experience in coaching, training, and mentoring. And she works with senior people and leadership teams, so the type of people who listen to this show today, to help them achieve the clarity they need to achieve their ambitions and to become the very best possible versions of themselves. She's adopted a unique, holistic approach to coaching, helping training with all aspects of their lives, from intensely private to published corporate goals. And because if your personal life is out of kilter, you'll never be able to show up at work and fulfill your true potential. So all of this delivered with genuine kindness, empathy, friendliness, and forthright honesty. What's not to love, eh?
What do you think about that?
I'm glad you wrote that. Yeah.
It's a great bio. Do you know what? One of my clients actually wrote that for me, which I think is fantastic.
That's a testimonial and a half, isn't it?
Exactly, right. But it just became a fantastic bio as well. So big shout out and thank you to David Stone if you're listening. That was the client who wrote that for me. So yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So today's show, we're going to be talking all about the power of systems, understanding why systems create results. So we're here for 30 minutes. These things tend to go so fast. So we're gonna kick off really. I think firstly, Rebecca, what are we talking about when we're talking about systems? What do we mean by that?
Okay, so it's a great question. And when I'm talking about systems for the purposes of today, what I'm really talking about is the systems that we have in everything that we do. Like if you really break down, it's not just processes and tech and, roadmaps that we have and processes that we follow. It's really like the systems we have in our lives. And when we slow down and look at it, there are systems in place for everything that we do and are in our lives. If you think about, if you want to get fit, you create a system where you go to the gym and you do the exercise, you eat the right food and all that sort of things. And the result you get is you're fit and lean and healthy, right? But it's a system that you put in place. So really why this has become something that I'm talking a lot about with recruitment leaders and other people that I coach with is that we can cut through some of that BS that David wrote so eloquently about me and get to what's really going on, because a lot of the time we can get stuck in what's wrong with me, why isn't this working, I'm not good at business development, or I'm not good at talking to candidates and all this sort of stuff, or we could be pointing at our staff and saying those sorts of things. And actually to cut through some of that is, let's just look at the systems that we have in place that create the results. Now, that might be technological systems and processes that we have in. It might be recruitment processes. It might be training processes. It might be onboarding processes. It might be how we run our meetings, the communication that we have with our team. So anything, when you break it down, can be a system. So what's helpful about this is if you're not getting the results that you want in life or business, right, is you can go to the system rather than getting caught up in the psychobabble of what's wrong with me, Why isn't this happening for me? And all that sort of stuff. We just very simply go to the systems and we go, is this a workable system for the results that we want to get? So it's a really, really great way of leaders, particularly cutting through a lot of the blame culture that can go on, a lot of the victim culture, the excuses and all of that sort of thing, and get to, let's just look at what we're doing. And one of the things that I uncover often is that, especially in management and leadership, we have leaders who think they know the systems that are operating in their world. And this could be in business, but also in life. So this is, talking holistically, but if we focus in on recruitment businesses right now, they think they know what systems are going on. But when we actually slow down and look at the systems, they're not actually the systems that are happening. There's like a pseudo system that's happening, and that's what's getting the results. So it's really just like looking at the power of systems as a way of changing the results that we get. And a lot of this work comes to me from coaches that I've outside of the recruitment industry, talking about, personal development coaching outside of recruitment necessarily. A brilliant book. I always like to have a book with me, which is The Power of Systems by Trevor Timbeck and Steve Chandler, which is a brilliant book. I'd highly recommend this. If anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I can share this with them. And one of the quotes that I got from it, I have this habit of opening books to random pages, and I did this morning for you guys. And this is the quote that it comes up with: is 85% of the reasons for failure are deficiencies in the systems and processes rather than the employee. The role of management / leadership is to change the process or the system rather than badgering individuals to do better. Now, we all work with individuals, right? We all work. And yes, obviously we can look at them and look at ways at which they can be better. But if we cut through all of that and go, what are the systems that you've got in place? Actually, that is going to be more effective at what was that percentage? Like 85%. Right? So rather than focusing all our energy on just what's wrong with this person, we can look at the systems that are in place around that person and make changes there to make them workable and successful.
Well, I think that 85% figure is fascinating. I'm a big fan of systems, because obviously one of the titles we put into the trailer for this was the fact that systems create results, and that stat, yes, I suppose, just sort of brings that really to the fore. That it does make you can have great people and you want great people, but great people often operate in great systems in all walks of life. When you gave those examples of the system going to the gym every day, how do people become champions at what they do? How do they become experts at what they do? Well, they consistently repeat it. But quite often they're consistently repeating a process and a system. I think that's what really gets us through this. I think that's a great stat. I'm going to use that stat, the 85%, like that. Yeah. I think there's one little challenge I sort of thought might come back on that. But the only way you get to 100% is if you put in the 15% effort from the person as well. That 15% is really vital too. So I think we need to sort of have that part.
Yeah, and that in itself is a system, though, right, James? Because how you support the individual with training, coaching, have they got all the right technology around them? Have they got all the right information around them? Are they being checked in? We talked about, when we were doing the prep for this, we talked about the fact that we've gone away from measuring people's systems a little bit with KPIs. It's become a bit of a rude word in recruitment, but actually it's an indicator of whether people are following systems or not. Yeah. So if we want them to show up with that 15% to take it up to 100%, are we checking in with the fact that they are working to the most efficient systems for them? And other things, are we looking after our staff in other ways as well? Today's mental health day, and the theme for this year is mental health at work. One of the systems is, are we looking after our people? As it says in that quote there, if we're badgering individuals and blaming them for system failures, what's their mental health going to be like? When it doesn't matter how much they show up or how much effort they put in, the underlying systems are tripping them up or not serving them in the most powerful way.
Mm-hmm. Can I sort of to segue into that one? Because I just want to get your views and your take on limiting beliefs within individuals as well. Because I think that's all related. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, limiting beliefs is another system that we've created over many years, right? and can be consolidated by evidence that we get on a day-to-day basis. So a limiting belief might be, I'm not good at this, right? And again, actually, if the system around us is the thing that's not having us be good at something, then actually we take it on as a limiting belief personally and as a whole person. So it impacts everything about us. So we need to look at the system that creates the limiting beliefs for people. And rather than necessarily challenging them straight on, like you need to just drop that limiting belief that you're not good at this. We need to kind of come back into, okay, how can we build up evidence for this person that they are good at this? And that might involve training, it might involve coaching, it might involve measuring their KPIs in a positive way to say, look at the progress you're making. Your limiting belief says you're not good at this, and yet the evidence that I've got in front of me says that you're really good at it, or you're improving, or you've grown exponentially since we've put these things in place. So limiting beliefs are this BS that I like to cut through because they're not true. I really like to talk about limiting beliefs as lies. Lies we tell ourselves, right? You know, I can do this, I can't do this, I'm not good at this. They're lies. And actually, if we go and look for evidence, often we can prove to ourselves we're good at things. So, for example, go back to the gym example, someone at work might say to you, I'm not very good at committing or consistency. And you're like, okay, well, let's have a look at the evidence then. You look really fit and healthy. How do you do that? Oh, well, I go to the gym 3 times a week and I eat really healthily. Okay, so you can be committed and consistent then. Okay, great. So you can do that. So why is that coming into as being something that's limiting you at work? What if we worked on you being consistent and committed with the systems to create results? You can already do it. So I'm not buying into that lie. I'm cutting through that. Let's put that in place for you. And then they get better results.
That's really interesting. So I've got 2 questions, in fact, but so I'll try and put them together in a multiple question. In recruitment, we talk a lot about processes, you know, the recruitment process, etc.
Yep.
So my first part of the question is, what's the difference between a system and a process? And then my second question is just popped into my brain before. Do we create accidental systems, do you think, as well? That's my multiple question.
So the first part of the question is, and I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, but, you know, processes are a type of system. The only reason that I would define it differently is processes can end up feeling like it's, you know, like you say, the recruitment process is a step-by-step thing. It tends to be sort of tangible things, you know, CRM processes. So the reason that I really talk about systems is to take it out of just those kind of processes. I'm trying to think of the right word, like, you know,
linear, isn't it? Process linear and 2-dimensional.
Yeah, exactly. And to take it outside of where we traditionally might use the word process, like recruitment process, into what's your limiting belief system, right? We wouldn't necessarily use the word process there. So it's really to get people to look at everywhere where systems show up. Okay. And obviously processes also, there might be multiple processes within a bigger system. Here's a system of mine, by the way. I have an alarm that goes off at 13:13 every day because it's my lucky number. So I'm not taking phone calls, but that goes off every day. 13 is a very lucky number, by the way. Don't believe the hype on that one. So the reason I use systems rather than processes is to take people out of that, like you say, that 2D linear, you know, work-related processes into what's your limiting belief system? What's your system for getting a good night's sleep, right? You know, so it takes it out of that. So it becomes much more about us as human beings rather than just machines or processes we follow at work. Okay, so that to me is just the difference, right? And you know, it's all semantics. If processes work for you, use the word processes. But for me, systems gives me that idea of this bigger picture. And then remind me of the second part of the question.
Do we set accidental systems?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. So I talk about it in 2 different ways, either default systems or and this ties in with something I talk about more generally, which is reported world. So what tends to happen is we create default systems, often from our limiting beliefs, from our conditioning, from how we've always done it, how we've been taught it by one person perhaps, or we've seen someone else doing it. and they become default, and they also become subconscious. So we're not aware of them necessarily. Mm-hmm. When we start moving into what I call a created world, where we actually always have a choice of how we show up, both in terms of our thinking, in terms of our processes, in terms of our systems, we get to look at our default systems, look at the results we're getting. So I don't like my weight, but when I go and look at my default system, I don't exercise, I don't eat healthily, I don't sleep well, I drink too much, whatever it might be. The default system is creating the results I'm getting. So it's already there. So now what I get to do is go, okay, that's a default system and it's not serving me well. It's not helping me. It's not creating the results I want, which comes back to a bit what I was saying earlier about leaders thinking that one system is in place, but actually when they go and look at it, what's actually happened is a default system has been in place. Mm. So the results that they're trying to get from the system they think is happening is actually being overridden by a default system. So then they get the chance to, rather than going and badgering all the individuals about what they're not doing and how they're not getting results and that they're not very good at this, they can actually go, oh, all we need to do is take out the default system and get really conscious and clear on what the created system is. And then we can see the results. Then when we know what the system is, if the results aren't what we want them to be, then we know we need to alter the system. We can tweak it, change it, and make it what we want it to be. So absolutely, most of us, Joe, are running on default systems we're not aware of, we've got no consciousness around, we think we've got no choice on or any agency with. And actually, if we just bring them into our consciousness, which is a lot of the work that I do with people, like what are the systems you've got in place for this? Okay, let's bring it into the consciousness. Now we get to create something. Guess what? We get the results that we want.
I suppose that's why people sometimes say that the systems aren't working as well as we expect, because we're not acknowledging which system we're on.
Absolutely, yeah. Like coming back to the gym thing, right? I'm doing all the work and I'm still not, the weight or the size or the fitness that I want to be. If you actually dig into that system with that person, they're not following the system that needs to get that result. It's like, oh yeah, well, I did skip one last week and I eat a bit of this, and I'm not picking on anyone in terms of fitness or not, right? But it's a great example of showing that we'll trick ourselves into thinking we've got effective systems. And that is also why people give up on things. But it's actually not that they're following the system that would get them the results. It's that they have got a default system that's tripping them up. Had a great call on a masterclass yesterday or the day before, where we brought in the idea of that our ego can trip us up in that. It's our small self, our ego, that can have us believe, well, you're doing everything you need to do, but you're not getting the results that you want. And it will then come and sabotage it. Whereas actually we need to go, no, it's that I'm not going to the gym 3 times a week. If I went to the gym 3 times a week, I'd be getting the results I wanted. Or if I'm following the processes in work that are in place, I'd be getting the results that I wanted.
Yeah, I think that comes back to that blame piece as well, doesn't it? So it makes it more logical. When you talk about a system, you think about it logically. What is the system? Is it working? If it's not working, where isn't it working? Whereas emotionally, we tend to either blame, like you said, ourselves or others, or we want to think it's everything. So we catastrophize the entire thing and go, oh, the whole thing's not working. I love that idea of sort of applying logic to the idea of the systems. Definitely.
Absolutely. And you're right. It becomes who we are. I am not good at this, rather than I don't have an effective system for this yet. Right. It just takes it away from it becoming something that's wrong with us. Right. I'm writing at the moment, doing creative writing, learning to do creative writing. And I've been having this conversation with my writing coach, because I'm there going, oh, I'm struggling to write. And she's like, no, you don't, you're not struggling to write. You don't have a good system for writing, which is write every single day, whatever the outcome, whatever comes out, just throw words on a page. That's going to be the system that will have you be a great writer. Whereas I'm stuck in the emotional thing of, oh, I'm not very good at this. And guess what? When I apply her system, which is just write every day, I create great writing, because it's a great system for getting the results that I want. So yeah, it detaches that emotional piece from it.
Let's move on to talking a little bit about some of the shortcuts that people sometimes think they can enable, and that's why quite topical. I'm at the Recruitment Agency Expo, and every stand has got the words AI, automation on. So in the world of systems, and I think my views on this, Rebecca, we had a little discussion about it after. But what are your thoughts on the implementation of AI and automation. So when you look at your creative writing course, and say, can't you just stick it in ChatGPT, Rebecca?
Oh, I have tried, James, I promise you. Interestingly, this week I put some of my writing into ChatGPT to create pictures, which was really good fun.
Wow.
I'll have to share them with you. They're a bit out there. But listen, my view on this, and we did talk about this, is of course there is a place. AI is just another form of technology that, 25 years ago, 28 years ago, when I started in recruitment, we didn't have the internet, right? And when it came in, we were like, oh my God, this is going to, revolutionize recruitment and take away all our jobs. And it's just another bit of technology that's coming in, and it feels very edgy at the moment. And it is, because it's going to take us beyond what we've ever known before. And that always feels edgy. Is there a place for AI? Absolutely, right? Is there a place for automation in recruitment? I've been talking with recruitment agencies and leaders about automation for decades, right? We've got better technology for it now, but it's always been a thing. What parts of the process or the system can we automate, or what parts of it can we make easier? So yes, I'm not against it. There's a place for it. What I talk to people about is it's not the answer. Right? It is a part of the answer. The problem often is that people don't look at the system, and then they put in these things thinking it's going to solve the problem, and they think it's going to change the results. But again, if we don't really understand the system and we put things into to change it or to fix it, if we don't understand the system, we don't understand the results we're getting from the system, it's not going to make a difference. And you and I both know, James, that people will wander around that expo, which is fantastic, by the way. It's not a criticism of the expo at all, or any of the tech. But people are not really understanding the end-to-end systems of their businesses, whether they're the creative ones or the default ones that they don't even understand. They then buy things, because recruitment people love buying shiny things, right? We love it. And we want them to be the silver bullet that's going to solve all our problems. And we go and we buy things, and then we sort of squidge them into our systems, and we expect them to fix everything. And they don't. And then what we do is we throw out that shiny thing, and then we get a new shiny thing. So there is a place for it. It's important. It will definitely enhance your business if you understand the systems that are operating in your business right now, and you look at it as an overall system and where these things can help you. And underlying all of that, we work with people. We have our commodity is people, right, as recruiters, and we sell our commodity, which is people, to other people, right? It is never, AI automation is never going to replace, for me, the relationships, the relational nature of the work that we do. And this, again, is where I think a lot of people are looking at all the tech as being the silver bullet. And actually, we need to create better systems around how we train, onboard, coach, and manage people to build relationships. And there are systems to do that. And by systems, I mean relational systems, not a bit of automation that fixes it. But there are other parts of the recruitment process that absolutely automation works, and absolutely AI can help you get great content out to people, get great websites created, great mailings, all of that, right? But really, I think as an industry, we need to come back to the relational nature of what it is we do and get better systems in place for having great conversations and building great relationships. I don't believe that will ever go away in our industry. But it's an art that we're losing in the science of technology.
And I think for me, again, the bit I'm seeing is people are trying to see, as you sort of intimated there, they're trying to see as AI and automation as the solution, whereas in reality, it should be part of your systems to be built into it. And that's where I understand it. So there's so many people looking for a quick fix. And I was just speaking to one of our clients who called in on the stand, and he's been with Joe and myself now for a year. Or just coming up to a year, and he's been through all the training programs with Joe, and he says, I've got to repeat it because I've got to go through it again and again. It's not a one-hit wonder. There's no simple magic thing. He says, I've done it, I've implemented it, it's working the right way, but I know I've just got to keep on going back, because it's a bit like going back to the gym. Looking after yourself, whether it's education, coaching, counselling, those are all important parts to it. And the AI and automation, there's lots of things that can help in lots of places, and they do help, but they're not the solution, but they can be that part to help the solution.
Yeah. And I love what you said there, James, about your client, because that's a great example of a system. So here's someone who's gone through your training programs, right? They've understood it. They've implemented it, which is in itself a great system, because a lot of people don't even do that, right? A lot of people get loads of information and then don't actually implement it, right? So he's created a system. He gets the right help, gets the right information, gets the right training, implements it, and then has a system of, okay, I'm going to come back. And now from where I am now, because I've moved in my understanding and my capability and my education, and I'm now going to come back round and I'm going to go, okay, how do we go a little bit deeper this time? And that, again, is a system that unfortunately a lot of leaders don't have, right? They think it's a one hit. They think they've got it sussed. And this is not a criticism or a judgment. It's an invitation to look at the systems you have for how you learn. If you've got a system where you already know it all, and many of us do in many areas of our lives, right? We might not have it everywhere, but we have it somewhere. If you have a system of I know it all and there's nothing I can learn, then the results you're going to get are you're going to get stuck, because we are always learning. We are always growing. And if we think we already know it and we're not willing to see anything new, then we're going to keep getting the same results. And I know a lot of leaders who are stuck in that loop at the moment. So it's an invitation, not a criticism or a judgment. It's an invitation. Where can you not know something and therefore learn something new that's going to help you move your business forward?
Yeah. Do you know, that's so, it's very deep, this as well, isn't it? You know, I think a lot of people, so we have just flashed Rebecca's details up on there. You can connect with Rebecca on LinkedIn. Highly recommend you do connect with Rebecca on LinkedIn. I think you'll have some kind of staring out into the distance for a long time period with Rebecca, because she'll make you kind of go, oh yeah. But it's actually quite, it's simple, but it's not simple to us, I think, because we like to overcomplicate everything, don't we? You know, I was talking to one of our clients earlier on today, actually, and he's in the beginning parts of kind of building, you know, I keep having to remind him of that word. That word is operative. Building, you start with one brick, then you've got two, then you've got three, and you put the hard work in. Because again, I think we have this idea that instant gratification, quick fix, and again, that's all to do with those systems as well. And this idea, and we do get this a lot in recruitment, you know, this idea that we're perfect, or my business is perfect, or there's nothing else for us to learn. And recruitment changes. It's almost as an organism, isn't it? You know, it does change. We do have to adapt. And I think it is a mistake that businesses and people make, to think that A, everything's static, and B, you know, I know everything and there's nothing left to learn. I have a question for you. I'm also going to bring my book in. I love, obviously, this is like the absolute founding mother of all things mindset. The whole idea of fixed mindset, growth mindset. I think that comes into this as well. And I love the idea of the system, because the system needs testing, it needs refreshing, it needs servicing, it needs refining and updating. You know, the idea that you update your computer when it starts to glitch, you're not getting the results. So you can see how you could really turn this into a whole vocabulary, just a whole way of life. I want to talk to you a bit more about created world versus reported world in a minute, because again, I love the idea of that. I do firstly, though, want to bring in a question by Ian Rose, who's asked a question, and it's a brilliant question. Are people defaulting to comfort zone? This whole idea of comfort zone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do, because you know what, you know, life is pretty tough, right, for most of us in very many ways, right? And you know, at a personal level, and in an industry level, business level, financial level, right? You know, life can be tough, and our ego, again, our small self, will want to keep us as safe as possible. And for most of us, safe means no risk. Safe means not putting your head above the parapet. Safe means, and we learned this, most of us are still stuck in what we learned at school. Actually, this is some of the psychology behind this is, you know, and at school, what we learned was to fit in, right? To fit in, to not stand out, because the last thing you want when you're 15, 16, 17 is to be the loud one, or the weird one, or the effervescent one, in fact, right? You know, I've learned that in my latter life, but at school I didn't want to be the effervescent one, because that would have me stand out, right? So our natural state is comfort zone, safety. Our brains are still wired to the fact that we think we're going to get eaten by a cave lion, right? You know, we haven't, our brains have not developed at the same speed as technology. We're still stuck in, I could walk out of my house today and get eaten by a cave lion, right? Now, the cave lion can be someone might mock me. Someone might think that I'm stupid. Someone might think that I'm not a great leader if I say I don't know what I'm doing, right? So yes, we default to our comfort zone. So it's really bringing some consciousness to that as a system. So not, oh gosh, I'm really rubbish, I always default to my comfort zone. It's like, I've developed a system that has me default to my comfort zone. Okay, how do I change the system? Well, do you know what? I go and talk to people who are outside of my comfort zone, you know, mentors that have been there before me, or experts in those fields, or I go and talk to companies who are pushing the edge, or I go and surround myself in an environment where people are supportive, not critical and judgmental. And then I start to feel like my comfort zone is growing. And then guess what? My default still is in my comfort zone, but my comfort zone is bigger, right? So we create a different system of being with it. So yeah, it's a great question. We do tend to default to our comfort zone, and nuance on that, we choose to default to our comfort zone in different areas of our lives. So some people can be very, very willing to be outside of their comfort zone, like throwing themselves out of aeroplanes and mad things like that, but very happy and default into their comfort zone in their business or in their relationships or their parenting or, you know, any community, anything like that. So the other thing to watch out for is where are you stepping outside of your comfort zone, and where are you staying within it? Because it can be different in different areas of your life, and that's worth paying attention to. What's the system of belief I've created that means I'm safe to jump out of an aeroplane, but I'm not safe to go into my leadership team and say, I don't really know what we're going to do for the rest of this quarter. Can I have some feedback from you guys? Because that for a leader can feel more scary than jumping out of a plane, right?
Yes. Yeah, so exactly. Yeah.
That's worth paying attention to as well. So thank you, Ian. I love that question.
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant question. And I think exactly we said fear of the unknown, fear of repeating things that haven't gone particularly well previously. But again, that brings it all back to created world versus reported world again, doesn't it?
So my idea behind this, right, and I've learned this from coaches that I've worked with as well, because I'm continuously learning and coaching, and I'm continuously being coached by various different coaches outside of recruitment, and I spend a lot of time with people, you know, like yourselves within the recruitment industry as well. And one of the biggest distinctions for me has been this idea of reported world versus created world. We live in a reported world, most of us, right? Like 95% of the population, like a constant feed of what the world is. Now, some of that is like literal constant feeds of narratives through media, through TV, through familial community, industry, everything. It's like we just accept this as like, it's like a radio show playing that's telling us how the world is, right? And again, it's partly being in our comfort zone because that's what we're used to. So we just accept that as the way things are, right? If we just shift that then and go to the opposite, which is the created world, is we then live in a world where we're like, I get to create my world how I want it to be. I'm not tuning into this constant feed here of, it's, you know, in our industry, you know, it's really hard out there. The market's tough. Nobody wants to talk to us. Candidates ghost us, clients ghost us, you know, all the reported stuff we get. And I'm not saying some of that isn't going on, by the way, right? So that's a caveat there. But if I buy into all of that rubbish, and then I've got my own internal stuff, which is, oh, I'm not very good at this and everyone else is better than me, and all that sort of internal reporting as well. How am I showing up, right? I'm showing up right back in my comfort zone because everything now seems scary. Whereas if I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to create a world where candidates talk to me, right? I'm going to create a world where clients love me because I solve problems for them, because I help them. And I'm going to create a world where I get results. I'm going to create a world where I don't buy into the news feed that it's tough out there. Because when I create my world like that, like every day is like, today's going to be a great day. Guess how we show up? We show up with the energy, the enthusiasm, the capability of creating a great day. Really great example of this is Kate Winslet, a brilliant actress, right? And there's a little YouTube video of her where she's being interviewed by a young person. It must be some sort of, you know, a young reporter who's trying out this as an idea, right? So most people who interview Kate Winslet are obviously highbrow interviewers and very good. And Kate says to this, I think it's a young girl, she says to her, you know, you seem a little nervous. And she went, well, I am. It's the first time I've ever done this, right? So again, think about systems when I'm talking about this as well. First time I've ever done this. And Kate just slows down and looks at this girl and she goes, well, I tell you what we're going to do here. She said, you and I are going to create this as the best interview ever. She said, and, you know, we're going to do that because that's how we're going to create it. This is going to be the best interview ever because that's how you and I are going to create it. Immediately, this new interview relaxes in and they have a great interview. It's the same principle, right? And I know that people listening will be going, yeah, but that's all very well and good, but it is still hard in the market and this is still going on in the world. Yeah, of course it is. And I believe, and my evidence is now that when I choose how to create my world's better, right? So I know that if I show up and create a world where I have great clients, I have great conversations, I get invited onto great shows, I have great results with my clients, I have a great life, I have great days. Guess what happens, right? That's what happens. Now, I lived a lot of my life not in a creative world, very much in a reported world. And guess what? The evidence was then that the world is awful. I'm not good. I created all these limiting beliefs and systems that this is going to be an awful day. And that's what my life was. So and obviously this is a really huge topic that we could talk about a lot, but it's very simply just getting to realize that we create our world. We're doing it by default. If we buy into the reported world, again, that's a default system. Oh, the market's tough. How do we go into the market then? Like it's tough, right? We create it like the market is full of opportunities and possibilities. We'll show up differently in it. So it's, I would say it's a whole other topic that we could talk about, but very simply, by default, we are creating our world from reported news, right? This constant. So all I've done is I've chosen to turn off the news feed on that consciously and create a really cool radio station where my life is pucker, right? And I come from that place. And I invite people to try it. Go and give it a try. Just have a day where you create your day exactly as you want it to be and see what results you get. Build up some new evidence. Or come and talk to me. Yeah, either or.
I think that's fascinating. That created world versus reported world. It sounds like such a simple idea. I know obviously you're well practiced at it, but I'd urge people to consider that and obviously reach out to you, Rebecca, on your LinkedIn connection, or just reach out to you. But it's been fascinating listening today, and I've been mainly listening, which you'll be all pleased to hear. Just I'm trying to cut out this noise that's in my background, which I apologise for. But thank you so much, Rebecca, for sort of sharing all those insights with us. I do hope people connect with you and follow through with it. Joe, got anything to add?
Just the same. I think it's fascinating. I really do. And how often, because we've built this system where we don't actually sit and think about us and think on it. We're so busy in it, hurtling at a zillion miles an hour, that very rarely do we sit and think on it. And I think it's hopefully, I mean, there's loads of people on the show. There'll be people watching this on a recording as well. I'd urge people to just take that time to, tune into your own radio station. I love that. Rebecca's details are up there again. So Rebecca Shannon Compliment Coaching, you will find her on LinkedIn. You can't miss her. Everything is pink and yellow. It's fabulous. And gold.
Yeah, and some gold going on there. Yeah, see, that's how I create my world, right? Even in the colours that I have around me. So, thank you so much for having me on today, guys. Really enjoyed our conversation.
It was a round of applause for you.
There you go, Rebecca. Look at that. Hurrah.
See what I create, James?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You think that that was created by me? I've been hanging on to this, just stretching out for that round of applause. I kid you not. I knew there was a round of applause coming about this time, so it's perfectly planned.
You've got it already.
Thank you so much. Yeah, indeed. Well, listen, thank you very much. It's been great to have Rebecca here. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks, or Joe will be back in a couple of weeks. I'm actually away for the show. We've got a great guest coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We'll look forward to seeing you. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Yo.